So there was a resolution in the United Nations to call for an investigation of what happened in Gaza as the massacre unfolded there over the last couple of days and over a longer stretch of time as the weeks went on in that protest near the border. And of course, the United States blocked it. Our ambassador, Nikki Haley, spoke out and said this.
No country in this chamber would act with more restraint than Israel has. In fact, the records of several countries here today suggest they would be much less restrained.
Nobody's been as restrained as Israel. Really? You couldn't show more restraint? According to the United Nations, they were shooting and executing people that were 700 yards away from the so-called border. 700 yards away. 8 children were killed, men, women, and children, 60 dead, 2,400 wounded. But you couldn't show more restraint. It was not possible to show more restraint. I mean, you must have been in such mortal danger. In fact, probably more Israelis died, right? Nope. How many Israelis died? None. How many were wounded? None. How many of the soldiers were wounded? None. How many were in imminent danger? None. But nope, we couldn't show any more restraint. As Israeli human rights groups explained, the Israeli government and military had weeks to prepare for these. These protests have been going on for 6 weeks. And bless their hearts, those human rights groups within Israel, that's the left wing of Israel saying, yeah, we could have been more restrained. They don't want Israel overrun. They're Israelis, their families live in Israel, they live in Israel. And they don't want to just give away Israel, that's preposterous. That's the right-wing talking points that our government and the Israeli right-wing government says, oh my God, if we didn't murder all those people, well, then the only other choice is we would have had to give Israel to Hamas. Preposterous. And then she says there's a couple of countries in here that were less restrained in their life. Well, that's true. For example, our other great ally, Saudi Arabia. They're even worse in Yemen. That's right. So wait, they're also our top ally. And by the way, they're also Israel's ally. I would love to restrain Saudi Arabia and the massacres that they have committed in Yemen. We were not very restrained in Iraq. And sometimes Russia is not restrained, Syria is not restrained. I would love to restrain them as well. Let's be even-handed. But to say that, what, somehow Panama and Botswana are worse than Israel? What the hell did they do? It's preposterous. All right. By the way, what was it that they voted down? And quote, independent and transparent investigation. Wait, if you were really restrained and you were the good guys, why wouldn't you want an independent and transparent investigation? It would clear you, wouldn't it? Oh, maybe you weren't the most restrained. And maybe you did commit massacres, and that's why you don't want a transparent investigation. Raj Shah, White House Deputy Press Secretary, yesterday said, the responsibility for these tragic deaths rests squarely with Hamas. Hamas is intentionally and cynically provoking this response. Well, then why was Netanyahu so stupid as to get tricked by Hamas and give in to their provocation? Is Netanyahu so weak, so moronic that when Hamas provokes him, he goes, oh, okay, I'll give you what you want? I don't think so. And I'd love to ask that question of Raj Shah. I'd love to have reporters asking that question. Well, if this was a propaganda effort by Hamas, why did Israel fall right into their trap? Are they totally incompetent? Should they be voted out of office if this right-wing government falls for every Hamas trap? No, the reality is, of course, that's not what happened. It was a protest, and the right-wing government decided to tell the soldiers to fire. And they did follow orders, and they did fire, and those people did die. And it was not because they had it coming. It was because the right-wing government of Israel profits from war. It is a distraction for Netanyahu. Their whole platform has been against peace negotiations, and in reality and in practice for all of these decades. They don't want peace. That's why they do these conflicts, and in this case, a massacre. And then if you were proud, you would then boldly present those things, wouldn't you? Well, here's another curious note. Ayman Mohyeldin, reporting for NBC, says, wow, Jared Kushner's controversial comment about Gaza during the embassy opening, saying, quote, as we have seen from the protests of the last month and even today, those provoking violence are part of the problem, not part of the solution, was omitted from the official White House transcript. Now, why would you omit it from the transcript if you're not embarrassed about those comments? I know what the right wing in America thinks. Oh yeah, fake news. I bet he didn't really say that. Really? Well, here's a tape of Jared Kushner saying exactly that.
As we have seen from the protests of the last month and even today, those provoking violence are part of the problem and not part of the solution.
That exact quote was omitted from the official transcript. That is literally political correctness. That's Orwellian. And the reason it's omitted is because it's a little embarrassing now. Even some of the media in America are saying Jared Kushner and Ivanka sitting there celebrating and smiling and then blaming the victims as the rest of the world recognizes this for what it was. Seemed unseemly. So they just removed it from the record and now it no longer exists. That is an admission on their part that yes, it did not look good to be celebrating as not Hamas, not the Palestinian civilians, but Israel took those actions. They fired those bullets, and that's exactly why those people died and were wounded. And it is obvious to the rest of the world and the rest of the decent people who care about lives on both sides. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.